Lesson time, yes! Here we are again! Yes, it's not lemon time, it's not even lunchtime, it's lesson time. And so with lesson 13, lucky lesson 13 of module 6, we're doing something very similar to what we did in lesson 12, but with a twist. Here we go. So we will be adding decimal numbers, right? Okay, but now by converting everything to fraction form. So we won't see any place value dis or anything like that. Everything what we do is we take the decimals, put them into fraction form, and that, yes, that's something familiar. That's something you've done already. So that's always a way to get those decimals added, is to use your knowledge of fractions to add decimals. All right, so we'll start off with a little look back at yesterday and days before, days gone by. We're going to put these in order from least to greatest. 44 hundredths, 1/10, and 5/10. Okay. Yes. Can you look at this? Think about it in terms of money. This would be 1 dime. This is 50 cents and 44 cents. So which is the least? The 1/10, then the 44 hundredths, and then we could call it 5/10 or 50 hundredths. How do you like them apples? Great. Here we go. Now this one's a little more complicated. Why do I say so? Because the obvious. There's a whole lot of numbers here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh! But we got it. All right, here we go. Let's look at these. This is 6/10, right? Now when we look, we've discovered before that usually the easiest way to do this, when you have decimals in the hundredths at all in your collection, you want everything to be decimals in the hundredths. Makes it a little bit easier to compare. So what would this be as a decimal in the hundredths? 60 hundredths. This is, easy, 55 hundredths already. Now this, 16/10. Well, remember 10/10 is 1 whole with 6/10. So as a decimal, that would be 1.6 we would write to make it hundredths, the 0 at the end. 65 hundredths, we can write that as a decimal, 0.65, good. That's already decimal to the hundredths. That simply needs what? Right, convert it from tenths to hundredths with that 0, 10 hundredths, already, and already decimal to the hundredths. Great. So now, least to greatest. Which one is the smallest? Well, again, this happened before when we had to list the numbers that there was only one, right? That was greater than 1. Everything else starts with the 0, right? So we know that's going to be our last one. So which one is the least? Yes, the 10 hundredths. Then now this is just simply a matter of putting numbers in order. What do we have next? 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 55 hundredths would come next. 60 hundredths. 65 hundredths. 77 hundredths. Don't miss that. 87 hundredths, then 88 hundredths. And lastly, 1 in 60 hundredths. Did I miss anything? I don't know. I don't think so. Okay, so that's what it looks like when we put them all in order. Beautiful. Quick review there. Now, what we're going to do is write these out in the notations. So we're going to do simple expanded form first. What's this? Oh, it's 2. That's correct. What is its value? 20. Okay, so when we go to write this in expanded form, simple expanded form, that's 20. This is, value is 5. Value is 3/10. Value is 4 hundredths. All you have to do is say the digit and what place is it in. 3 in the tenths place, 4 in the hundredths place. Now let's do that in the expanded form with multiplication. So 20 is 2 times 10. 5 is 5 times 1. 3/10 is 3 times 1/10. And 4 hundredths is 4 times 100th. Okay, so this looks familiar. Remember how this works? Don't worry, we'll do a few of these. And now, when we do this in fraction expanded form with multiplication, what's the only thing? Do you remember that'll be different here? This will be the same, and this will be the same. They're whole numbers. All right, these fractional numbers will be in fractional form. So 1/10 and 100th. So it's going to look like 2 times 10 plus 5 times 1 stays the same. Then it's 3 times, yes, fraction 1/10 plus 4 times fraction 100th. Beautiful. Let's do another one. Good. 60 plus 1, 7 tenths. Good. And 9 hundredths. Excellent. So it's going to be in the expanded form with multiplication, 6 times 10 plus 1 times 1. Very good. That one sometimes is tricky, right? Plus 7 times a 1/10, 9 times 100th. Excellent. And again, what's going to be different here? Only those fractions. 6 times 10 stays the same. 1 times 1 plus 7 times 1/10 as a fraction. Good. And 9 times 100th as a fraction. Ooh, now it's time for the big things. Yeah. We're going to add 2 decimal numbers that are less than 1 by converting them to fraction form. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So here's 2 decimals that are both less than 1, right? They're 0 point something. 3 tenths plus 57 hundredths. Okay. How would we write these then as a fraction? Well, exactly what just came out of my mouth. 3 tenths plus 57 hundredths. 3 tenths plus 57 hundredths. There you go in unit form. 3 tenths plus 57 hundredths in fraction form. Now, of course, we have different denominators here. So 3 tenths is how many hundredths? 30 hundredths. Good, you're getting good at that. Plus 57 hundredths, total of 87 hundredths. Write it as a decimal now because that's what our original example was in. Good, 0.87. That was the easiest one we're going to do. Yeah, keep smiling. All right, here we go. 5 tenths plus 64 hundredths. Great. 5 tenths plus 64 hundredths. I write it out in unit form here so you can see, oh, these units are different. We need the same thing here. Let's write out in fraction form. 5 tenths plus 64 hundredths. Yes, the 5 tenths is how many hundredths? 50 hundredths. Now plus 64 hundredths. Oh, well, what do we end up with then? 50 plus 64. And by the way, we did something similar. If I were doing this in my head, I would say, oh, I'm going to take 50 to make that 100, and that leaves 14. So 114 hundredths. And good, we've had some practice with this before. 100 hundredths is 1 whole, which leaves 14 hundredths. So 1 and 14 hundredths, but as a decimal, 1 and 14 hundredths. Lovely. Okay, we got the hang of this. And I tell you, that's about as difficult as they get. 8 tenths plus 29 hundredths. Okay, so 8 tenths plus 29 hundredths. Fraction form, 8 tenths plus 29 hundredths. 8 tenths is how many hundredths? 80 hundredths. And here again, I would say, the 20 will give me the 100 and leave 9. So 109 hundredths. As a decimal, 1.09. Very good. 109 hundredths. 5 tenths plus 30 hundredths. Now, 5 tenths plus 30 hundredths, watch, there's something I can do here a little different. And you could do it either way. You'd get the right answer either way, I'm quite sure. But let's make this a little easier. So the 30 hundredths is, let's go backwards, is how many? Yeah, it's 3 tenths, isn't it? So I can add this instead as 5 tenths plus 3 tenths. Yeah, you see, so without that extra 0 hanging out. That's much easier. Or a little. I don't know, it's about the same. 5 tenths plus 3 tenths is 8 tenths. Great. Now, 2 decimal numbers involving whole numbers, and we're going to convert them to fractional form. Here's what that looks like. Okay, so now we're not dealing with the 0 points. We have 6 and 8 tenths plus 5 and 7 tenths. They're both in tenths. Okay, so let's look at that in fraction form. 6 and 8 tenths, mixed number, plus 5 and 7 tenths as a mixed number. One way to approach this is to just add the whole numbers first. So 6 and 5, it's 11. 8 tenths and 7 tenths, 15 tenths. Okay, but then we have to do something about that, right? You generally don't leave a mixed number with an improper fraction embedded in it. So let's look at that 15 tenths. What can we do with that 11 and 15 tenths? Well, 15 tenths is, right, 1 and 5 tenths. So we have the 11, and then we have 1 and 5 tenths, because 10 tenths is 1. Okay, so we're decomposing that. Put them together, 11 and 1 are 12 and 5 tenths. Okay, and you may get to the point, by the way, I'm spelling all this out for you here, where you can look at 11 and 15 tenths and tell me 12 and 5 tenths, because they're essentially what I've written out here. You might get to the point where you can do that in your head. And what a beautiful head that will be. Here we go. Here it is as a decimal, because going back a step, look, we were given our question in decimal form, so we want to provide our answer 12 and 5 tenths, 12 and 5 tenths, and that's why, by the way, we would not simplify this fraction to 12 and 1/2, because then going to decimal form would just require undoing that step. Same thing though, right? We're just going out to hundredths place. 4 and 28 hundredths plus 2 and 97 hundredths. Okay, let's write that out in fraction form. And this is a good example why writing it out in fractional form is a good idea. So 4 and 28 hundredths plus 2 and 97 hundredths. 4 plus 2, great. And 28 and 97, I jumped the gun there, is 125 hundredths. Okay, so let's look at 6 and 125 hundredths. Right, 100 hundredths is another 1, right? So we have 6, and then we have 1, and what's left? 25 hundredths. Together, 6 and 1 are 7, and we have 25 hundredths. As a decimal, 7.25 is what we'd write, 7 and 25 hundredths. Lovely. Now, on all those few there, we added tenths and tenths, or hundredths and hundredths. Now, yeah, you know what's coming. We'll have to add tenths with hundredths, which means we just have one more in-between step, which we've gotten lots of practice in doing. You can handle it. All right. 3 and 5 tenths plus 2 and 97 hundredths. Great. 3 and 5 tenths in mixed number form. 2 and 97 hundredths. That's exactly what I write as a mixed number. What do you want to do first here? Yeah, let's make this into hundredths. How many hundredths will that be? 50 hundredths. Okay, so 3 and 50 hundredths plus 2 and 97 hundredths. Okay, well 3 and 2 are 5. For me to add 50 and 97, I'm going to do a mental shortcut. I'm going to add 50 and 100 and then subtract 3. Because 50 and 100 are 150. Come back 3 is 147. Okay, so 5 and 147 100ths. Or if you just want to line those up and add 97 plus 50, go for it. All right, now let's look at this. 5 and 147 100ths. Okay, well that's going to be 6, because we have 100 hundredths to pull out here, leaving 47 hundredths. And we can write that quite easily now, right? As a decimal, 6.47. Excellent. Here's another one like that. Notice this time we put the tenths in the second place, because we remember addition is commutative. You can move the numbers around. It doesn't matter the order in addition. 3 and 82 hundredths plus 19 and 6 tenths. Okay, so convert that to fractional form. 3 and 82 hundredths plus 19 and 6 tenths. Yeah, let's make that 6 tenths into hundredths. How many hundredths? 60 hundredths. Okay, so here it is rewritten with the 60 hundredths. 3 and 19 are 22. 82 and 60. Go ahead, figure it out. All right, ding, time's up. That's right. Okay, so it's going to be 22 and 142 100ths. That's a mouthful. All right, we're going to pull out the 100 hundredths, which will give us 23, leaving 42 hundredths. So 23 and 42 hundredths, right as a decimal, because that's how we started off here. 23.42 would be our final answer. So a bunch of steps in there, but again, some of these you might be able to consolidate in your head. All right, let's look now at the problem set. Beautiful to be there. So look, this is, what we're doing. 2 1/10 plus 3 hundredths. We turn, the 1/10 to 10 hundredths. Then we can add 2 and 1/10 as decimal plus 3 hundredths. Add them together. Here they don't give you that decimal step. You have to write it yourself. 2 more, doing the same thing. And then here, what's the difference? I don't know. What's the difference with these ones? 27, 87. I don't really see much of it. Oh, okay. Yeah, these basically have regrouping, because this will be, say, 90 hundredths plus 45. So you have to pull out the 1. That's the difference with number 2 there. And then 3 has more of that, but where you're doing, here they start you off easy with tenths and tenths. Well, easier. Hundredths and hundredths. And then you're doing, yeah, different units. Tenths and hundredths, tenths and hundredths. Okay. And notice, by the way, there's a parallelism here. 2 1/10 plus 94 hundredths. 2 1/10 plus 5 94 hundredths. Okay, so there's a little similarity that just in that one. Okay, then you get the exit ticket, which is more of the same but shorter. And homework. You know what to do. Head over to my homework time video, and I go step by step through every single one of these in excruciating detail. You will want to scream either in pain or joy by the time we're done, or perhaps both. Well, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I will see you again next time. It is once again a lesson time.